Welcome back to the channel, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back indeed, because it's been a few days since I last saw you, even though it feels like much longer. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. In the meantime, today I have for you my Gameweek28 transfer plans, accompanied by insights into blank Gameweek29, both for my team and for those on a free hit, by showcasing what I deem to be the best free hit, subject to change, of course, as well as a little bit of chip strategy and insights into Gameweek33, double Gameweek33, and blank Gameweek34. We will have a short game week review at the start because I imagine most of you would have moved on. And apart from that, if you could like the video, should you enjoy it, and equally, we are about 100 subscribers away from 7,000, and it'd be great to hit that within the next few days. So if you are a regular viewer, or if you're new around here and have not subscribed, then certainly do click the button. But apart from that, let's get into it. I'm going to go through this very quickly because, like I said, it's been a while since the game week, so I imagine the excitement of it has died down. And equally, it's not even the last set of games. The FA Cup ties were. Pickford 2-pointer teased me again, was one save away from a save point for a very long time, but it didn't manage to come, so it finishes on a 2-pointer, and fairly so, I would say. Lewis Hall, if I knew that Alexander Isak was out, I wouldn't have started him, and I would have started Konate, which would have been a 5-point swing, but it wasn't to be. And you know what, to be fair, I took a big risk here, so deservedly punished. Gabriel has been one of the better assets that I've owned this season, if not the best, considering he's the only one alongside Lewis Hall that stayed from Game Week 1 till now. 7-pointer, knocked off the bonus after the game due to the adjustment, but nonetheless, very good. It says a 0 for Robinson there because he's got 0 points, but really, it should have been 4 points. Obviously, he doesn't start, but when he comes on about 10 minutes, maybe slightly less, 10 minutes-ish into his substitute appearance, plays Jimenez through, he's one-on-one, and I think he takes a shot a split second too early, but regardless, should probably finish. He probably thinks he should probably finish, and then Robinson doesn't get the assist, and then he goes on to get hard to finish on 0. And yeah, the rest of the team, honestly, isn't too much better than that, a couple players aside. FODEN, 1-pointer, was quite surprised when I saw him on the bench, but I guess it makes sense given the volume of minutes he's played. I thought that the City team that they put out actually had a very nice balance to it without him, so we'll come on to that. I think he should have had an assist, and I think I should be walking away with a 4-pointer. I think the goal that was disallowed for Haaland was a goal, and that would have been a FODEN assist, but not to be. Atara, again, point dodging to an extent. And then the main three that we got to talk about. I mean, Salah wins yet again over Cole Palmer, even when it seems like Palmer should win. For me, still personally think I made the right decision. Very happy with the call. The outcome was what it was. On another day, Palmer has a break. Equally, on another day, Salah has more as well. But, swings and roundabouts, so whatever. I'm not too fussed about that. And if you did go for Salah, congratulations. Deserved 3-point gain. But the highlight of the game week by a mile was Pedro Neto, especially his goal, right? Because I think having the conviction to go there. I know it was Southampton at home and Leicester at home, but he doesn't have a great fixture in 29. He doesn't have a great record in terms of output. So to go there kind of off the back of one eye test game and then for him to return, and he should have had more, honestly. The pass that Sancho put him through for in the second half, he controls that better and then puts it past Ramsdale. Well, that's an 8-point goal and a 19-point haul. We'll hopefully have those points against Leicester. And yeah, just very happy with that call. Watkins, 5-pointer, really happy with. Could have had more. I mean, had a disallowed assist for Jacob Ramsey, had a disallowed assist for Morgan Rogers, both were rightfully offside, and then finally gets the actual assist with the third one in the game. And then to conclude, a slice of luck with Alexander Isak being out, meaning that Johan Wisser's 9-pointer comes off the bench for myself. One thing I would say about Wisser is when he scores, I know people talk about Cunha and Wood being locked 9-pointers. But when Wisser scores, he is so good on the bonus point system. I've seen him back-to-back games in a row be around like 32, 35, when everyone else who hasn't returned yet is in single digits. So if he gets one goal, then you can almost be pretty much guaranteed with 2 to 3 bonus for the game. And as such, that makes him an even better asset, especially with his price tag. So something to consider going down the line, because I did look into the planning in quite some depth for the game weeks to come. And I realized that like 35 onwards, like Wisser and Mbeumo, or even 34, given they'll probably have a fixture, they could present some good value as set and forget. So just something to monitor. In terms of the rank, I mean, fairly sizable red arrow. I think my gaming rank was around like 7 million, so from like 22, 23k to 31, which obviously doesn't appear to be great, but who knows? Hopefully, somehow it's a blessing in disguise. And I think we'll see how Gaming 28 and 29 goes. But on the assumption I get through both relatively well, without any chip usage, and that I've got the triple captain in the back pocket, Game Week 30 to 38 should see a strong end to the season at least. Moving on to the transfer plans section of my team, and starting with the most important challenge that is currently being presented to myself, and that is Philip Walter Foden. Does he even start in game week 28? Well, he hasn't been brilliant as of late, and that's not so much of a concern in terms of his output for me, more so just his expected minutes. Now, by no means has he been bad, just hasn't been brilliant or at the level he was prior to earlier in the season. Secondly, you look at the lineup they put out against Spurs, and I imagine some of this was due to rotation, just because of the minutes that, for example, he had accumulated in such a short space of time and what was to come. But I thought the dynamic of Gonzalez partnering Kovacic and then Doku and Savio as wide threats and Marmoush and Haaland worked quite well. The thing about Forest is I feel like you really do need a pocket player in the middle. And with De Bruyne probably not starting that game, especially due to the physical needs, I imagine it'll be Foden. So I do think he gets back into the side, but James McAtee keeps taking minutes off him, and I wouldn't be surprised if one of the wingers came on for him in some capacity and they changed the system. And he got minutes in the FA Cup as well. So his expected minutes is becoming more of a problem. But against Brighton, does he start? I'm not so sure. And if that was the case, then I wouldn't mind taking the hit a little bit earlier on if that was what I was set on. But like I said, a little bit difficult to justify in my particular situation. For now, I think, especially given it's the early kickoff, I hold him and then I assess what happens. If I get a leak, I can always bench him for Dango, who's currently on my bench for reasons we shall discuss later in the week. And if not, then so be it. He can just start and that'll be useful for myself. The big thing, however, is Konate and Hall, because the former might get rested given they have PSG either side of it, and he's had a few injury problems in the season, and Hall's obviously come up with a ankle issue following their trip to Anfield. Burgess doesn't really provide me with any depth, and my plan for Gameweek 29 involves selling Konate to facilitate the midfielder that I would like, which, spoiler alert, is Bruno Fernandes, I'll come on to. So that's not really ideal. And then thirdly/fourthly, Dango Atara, what's his expected minutes like with Evanilson back, and what positions are you going to play with Evanilson back as well? That's all not ideal. So those are the challenges currently, and now we can move on to what I'm thinking about doing about it. For you to better understand what I'm doing, I thought I would touch a little bit on chip strategy. I'm still largely committing to the idea of not free hitting in Game Week 29 and going into Game Week 30 with all chips in play aside from the assistant manager. However, I am slightly more open to free hitting in 29 if someone provides a good enough solve for my team in particular, or there is just like a macro level solution which works for a lot of teams, because I feel like I'm missing out a lot in terms of gains for 28 and 29. Obviously, I'll take a hit to field 11 and 29, and not only that, the team's not super strong. Similarly, in 28, I feel like it could be a lot stronger as well, and having like Foden, for example, in the team, who I think will start, but still a difficult-ish game, and the minutes might not be as good as I would like, and maybe I'll have a defensive issue to deal with as well. All of those things mean that I feel like I'm missing out in gains over the next 2 weeks, but from 30 onwards at least, my team should be much, much better. And that's mainly the reason that I'm more open to free hitting in 29, but it's still very unlikely. I thought I would also touch on double gaming 33 and blank gaming 34, which we will do so later in the video, and why I am really holding my free hit for that, at least as things stand. Let's just assume that Arsenal, Villa, Crystal Palace, and Manchester City all double in 33. Now, it could be very different from, right? For example, Palace could lose to Fulham, Villa could lose to Preston, Bournemouth could beat City, and none of those 4 teams would therefore double. But let's just assume that these guys double for a second. In 32, I'll have triple Palace anyway, because they have Southampton in 30 and then they double in 32. And if they're to double in 33, why wouldn't I just triple up on them at the start, right? City, I would like a minimum of 2 doublers, similar with Arsenal and even Villa. Like in 32 and 33, they have Southampton, and then a double of Newcastle at home, Man City away. Those are the type of fixtures where they score a lot of goals. So maybe I'd want Watkins as well, which means I would want, 9 doublers out of those guys. That would mean that only 6 spots are available to have players where they'd also be playing in 34, and I feel like the free hit will come in real handy there. And the other thing is, let's say I even scored like 5 free transfers, which will be very difficult to do anyway, and get to 11 players. Well, then from 35 onwards, my team won't be so optimal. So it's really being able to optimize the prior game weeks to 34 while still having a decent team in 34, which means that I would like to hold my free hit. The other thing is the options available in 34, for example, like Salah alone is quite a nice captaincy shout home to Spurs, and I just won't have that if I'm not free hitting. So that's why at the moment I'm willing to sacrifice a little bit in the next 2 game weeks and then hopefully cash in down the line. All of that is to say I will probably be rolling, but this is a team I would like to arrive in Game Week 29 with. The transfers being made here are 3 in total. Konate to Ainori, but in 29, because obviously he has Southampton this week, unless he doesn't play, in which I can consider bringing the transfer forward. The other one would be Salah to Bruno. Now, I know a lot of people don't want to sell Salah, but I'm more comfortable selling him in wildcard 30. Far more comfortable. I think it's just very difficult not to do so and be optimal in other spots. So I'll be selling him. And also the other thing with selling Palmer is you're also losing a fixture. So I'm not too bothered about that. And then the last transfer will obviously to get the big man up front in place of Ollie Watkins. What I would say, however, is I think people are going, we're almost committed to this idea of Triple City, or at least definitely captaining Haaland, where I'm not so sure he is the best captain, nor Triple City is anywhere close to essential, because Brighton are playing some really good football at the moment, and I would really give them that respect, and not just assume that it's a straight slam dunk. The other thing I wanted to talk about with this team is something that's not really relevant for my team, but maybe for yours. I bought Isak at 8.6, and he's currently at 9.5, which means his selling price is 9 on the dot, right? He's due a drop pretty soon, and there's such a long time between now and 30 that he probably drops again. And if he is to go to 9.3, right, on the assumption that you sell him earlier than one of the drops, because that probably happens between 29 and 30, you could buy him back for about 0.3 million more than you sold him for, which isn't that much if it opens up the forward swap for Haaland on the assumption you have a different structure to mine. So that's something to consider. Going back to my team, I know the Gameweek rating is okay, but for example, like I wouldn't be surprised if West Ham score similar with Spurs, similar with Chelsea, right? So that'll be 3 clean sheets gone. Equally, I'm not so sure on Dango and Foden's expected minutes. I quite like Worcester for this game week, and Neto's not really ideal away at Arsenal. But you never know what could happen, especially if he continues playing the false 9 role and find some form. So these are just very much my ideas as of now. Naturally, they'll become more concrete as things unfold, but I would just showcase what I'm thinking as of now. For those of you who are planning to use the free hit in 29 and wanted a bit of a plan, I thought I would show you what you could potentially get to. And for those of you who are tossing between each of the options, I thought I'd show you what you could potentially be missing out on should you not go for it. And I would say, even though I don't like my team's prospects, I have slightly cooled on the upside of this draft. The one thing I'd really like is that triple Forest. I think they could have good success away at Ipswich, especially Wood and Gibbs White. And I think the threat that Aina poses in open play is quite nice as well. Ainori, I mean, it's Southampton away. It's one of the best fixtures in this wing-back role. The attacking upside is definitely there. And I feel like Strand Larsen will be the main man without Cunha. And yeah, they'll definitely be a worse team, but still, with all due respect, Southampton not in their best form at the moment, or they're just not playing particularly well. So I think that he could cash in there. Onana and Bruno are very much fixture players, but Bruno is so good as an asset in terms of his routes to points. That's declined in terms of his open play routes to points, just given how poorly Man United are playing. But for that game, I could see him potentially moving into the front 3, especially if United keep on losing and Amorim feels like freshening it up. And honestly, I don't even think it's a bad captain shout, just given how poorly Leicester are playing at the moment. Guardiola, for obvious reasons, I mean, just huge attacking upside in a defender like that, Haaland. And then Buemo and Semenyo, because it's very difficult to pick between all the other assets. And I thought taking 1 penalty taker and 2 players who are somewhat talismanic in nature seems sensible. At least gives you a high floor and the option to access the high ceiling as well. So that's the team for 29 that I think would be the best free hit currently. Like I said, I don't love it, but I do think it's significantly better than a lot of what I've seen currently. When I say a lot better than what I've seen currently, I'm referring to teams without a free hit as opposed to teams with a free hit, because free hit teams in general look very, very similar, especially given the number of options are dwindling down following Cunha's red card, because that reduces so many combinations. And finally, just if you wanted to do a bit of planning, what fixtures do I think will be present in 33 and 34, courtesy of Ben Krellin's brilliant graphic. Well, the 3 at the bottom are definitely going to be played in 34, which means that none of those guys will double in 33. Now, I personally think that Ipswich will not beat Forest and Brighton, right? So I think Newcastle and Ipswich is a fixture you'll get in 34. And because Newcastle double in 32, and I don't think this is going to be a season where having like the maximum amount of doublers for your bench boost is actually optimal. I think just having triple up on your wildcard 30, 31 and then continuing with that is quite nice. I looked at Gordon, Hall and Isak for me personally, but I think Hall and Isak probably locked. Gordon may be subject to change. And then the rest. And this is where it becomes difficult. Apart from Manchester City, Aston Villa. I mean, Villa, one of 2 things has happened. Villa beat Preston or Manchester City beat Bournemouth, or both of those things. And that will be a blank in 34, and very likely a double in 33. So you can almost lock that into your planning. And then the other 5 fixtures. One of Southampton versus Fulham and Arsenal versus Palace will be a double probably in 33 and a blank in 34. Difficult to predict. Similarly, it's difficult to predict what Brighton West Ham game will be because you don't really know how the Brighton Forest game will play out in the FA Cup. But regardless, even if Forest are to go through, it's unlikely that this game gets moved into double game week 33, according to Ben. So really, there's only 4 fixtures you're guessing at. If you just assume that City beat Bournemouth, all of a sudden you're down to 3, which is the Brighton West Ham, Southampton Fulham, and Arsenal Palace game. And then I think it makes it a little bit easier to guess, should you wish so. But regardless, it also makes it a little bit easier to plan. So I thought I'd just show that, just in terms of those of you who wanted to plan going forward as to what your team could potentially look like, just in case there's a better strategy out there for you. And that is all she wrote for this video, ladies and gentlemen. I shall see you on Wednesday for everything you need to know. In the meantime, if you enjoyed the video, please do drop a like on it and equally subscribe as we push to 7,000 subscribers. Have a wonderful few days in the meantime. I shall see you soon. Goodbye.